Hello. Now, a third round of negotiations between Russia and Ukraine will probably begin next week. My assessment is it's probably going to be the last. Putin is not going to stop. And at that third round, Russia will make the same sort of demands that it's made from the beginning, which I suspect is regime change. Now, the more likely scenario in the next few weeks that we have to brace ourselves for is a Russian occupation of Ukraine, and an occupation which will turn into a version of Afghanistan. And what's happened at the moment? The humanitarian corridors have theoretically opened, but not in Mariupol, the coastal city which has been under serious bombardment and has been surrounded and cut off by the Russian military. We've got Russians fleeing from their own country into Finland, objecting to the war, but I think also fleeing the possibility that martial law may be about to be imposed across Russia, which could also bring with it universal conscription. The no-fly zone, which Mr. Zelensky wants, and which, of course, the West is seriously considering, particularly because of the possible disaster over the nuclear power station, that's not going to happen. It's off the table. If there's a no-fly zone, that brings the West into direct confrontation with Russia. And what else? Of course we have to condemn Mr. Putin, but we have to be careful about what we say. I mean, he's an absolute blackguard and a monster. No question about it. But he's a cornered rat, and he told his own story about a cornered rat. Do you want to go down? He told his own story about being a cornered rat. He told a story about when he was younger and living in a pretty awful apartment block in what was then Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, how in a staircase he trapped rats, presumably to eat, I think, and he trapped one particular monster rat, and it lashed out at him and struck his face, and then ran away. Now, why was he telling this story? Was it a sort of bravado about how brave he was as a poor child in Leningrad, or was he actually telling us that he was the rat? Because now he is. Now he is that cornered rat, and we have to be very careful that he doesn't lash out. And this is why I think I fairly consistently said that politicians who have been posturing, like Liz Truss, there's an American politician, an American senator, who madly suggested that it was time for somebody to assassinate President Putin. These people are crazy. These people are bloated with stupidity, not their own self-importance, so that may also be the case. They are bloated with stupidity. It's the role of politicians to keep their mouths shut unless they've actually got something of importance, of significance, and of worth to say. If they haven't, they need to keep quiet. This is a time for politicians to be very careful what they say. Other people may well express these ideas. Similarly, a major politician cannot recommend breaking international and national law to go and fight in the Ukraine, no matter how positive that call may be, no matter how charismatic and appealing may be Mr. Zelensky's call for support. A senior politician cannot be seen or heard commending that initiative. It simply involves us directly in a war with Russia, which at this moment we don't want. At this moment, there is a possibility that this can be resolved in other ways, and a war with Russia would be catastrophic. So we have to take at face value what Mr. Lavrov says. that the nuclear option is off the table. We have to take that seriously. Although, of course, in another sense, we take everything with a pinch of salt because the Russians have demonstrated so clearly that they are liars in this instance. The Russians, I would say, the people currently in the Kremlin. And as for Ukraine, Ukraine and Russia have clashed before. During the Second World War, Ukrainian nationalists attacked Russia. They also attacked Poland, and their hands definitely were not clean. They were led by an avowed anti-Semite. But it demonstrates so clearly that this idea that there is an automatic bond between Russia and Ukraine is questionable, although there is an automatic bond. So many Russians live in Ukraine, so many Ukrainians live in Russia, that freedom between the two countries was so apparent, particularly when I lived in Moscow. So there we are. That's an update for the beginning of the weekend. Let's see where we go from here.